Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Rakushin Lee and I teach at Gunguk University Global Campus. And my presentation today is on using online discussion boards to promote critical thinking in intercultural communication classes. So first, a little background information about myself. I'm an assistant professor. I started teaching in Korea in 2006. I've also taught in the US. My research interests center on refugee education, intercultural communication, and online learning. Okay, intercultural communication. So first, what exactly is intercultural communication? And this is a concise definition that I have here. There are myriad definitions of intercultural communication, some of them a little more complex. So intercultural communication basically refers to the sending and receiving of messages across languages and cultures. It is also a negotiated understanding of meaning in human experiences across social systems and societies. And why is intercultural communication instruction important in the classroom, which is at the core of this presentation? So it prepares students to interact in a globalized world and really promotes diversity and also understanding of cultural differences. Students especially need to be aware that the world is highly interconnected and developing relationships with diverse people is critical. Students also need to be cognizant of the world around them and be respectful and understanding of differences. So these are my specific course objectives. And maybe if you're teaching an intercultural communication, you have similar objectives. So to learn more about intercultural communication through practice and theory, to gain more insight into other cultures and globalization, to promote greater understanding of multiculturalism and diversity internationally and within Korea, and finally, to improve English writing and critical thinking skills. So in the spring semester, I teach courses on intercultural communication. And before the novel coronavirus, I taught these courses in a blended format and also included online discussion board activities to supplement the traditional face-to-face classes. But last semester, because of the coronavirus, my course was conducted 100% online. So I tried to really focus on these course objectives and incorporate learning activities into the class that really promoted intercultural communication and critical thinking at the same time. And to give students some structure and guidelines, this is the information that I provided them in terms of grading. Main posts were required to be at least 150 words, so we have some substantive content. Students were also required to reply to 3 students. I wanted them to interact, to ask more questions, to have a really deep conversation on these topics. And replies were required to be at least 50 words each. And the reason why, I didn't want students just saying, "Oh, you did a good job, well done." I wanted there to be some substantive content included in the replies as well. And grading was 75% content and critical thinking, 25% grammar. And I would also participate on the discussion forum to provide some guidance, to share some experiences, and to also ask some questions to the students to promote critical thinking in their ideas. So there were 5 primary themes that we looked at in the discussion forums. And the first one here is analysis of movies and TV shows. So the key point here is for students to learn about intercultural communication through domestic and foreign movies or TV shows that really have some type of significant cultural element, okay? And if you are focusing on a particular country or aspect of culture, you could assign a movie or TV show for students to watch, or perhaps provide a list of options for them to choose from for this activity. Okay, so actually some instructors might think that movies and TV shows, are just for fun and may not get students actively engaged in learning. However, I personally found that course concepts were reinforce through listening and discussion activities that pertain to intercultural communication themes that were taught in class. So in my class, the students watched the movie Outsourced, which is about an American businessman who goes to work in India. And through the movie, students could see examples of things that they learned in class, especially related to collectivism and individualism, high and low context cultural differences, the role of belief systems in culture, and other pertinent themes that we had discussed in class. In the past, though, I gave students assignments in which they could choose a movie or television show pertaining to intercultural themes and provide an analysis. For example, there are a lot of Korean shows that deal with cross-cultural communication, and some of the popular ones include Grandfathers Over Flowers, Non-Summit Meeting, Welcome First Time in Korea. So for this particular assignment though, and for consistency, we just used the movie Outsource, which everyone watched, okay? So I had the students write a 150-word discussion post. In 50 words or more, they discussed what they learned about the culture of India from the movie. And then in 100 words or more, they discussed one major cultural element in the movie, such as the celebration of Holi, work culture, dating culture, etc. And they had to research more about this specific cultural element using a credible source and share some new information that they learned. And of course, I explained to the students that, movies aren't always culturally accurate. Some things might be exaggerated. So researching more about these themes from the movie was critical to ensure that we were getting an accurate understanding of Indian culture. And then finally, for all of the discussion forums, I had the students respond to 3 students in 50 words or more for each reply. Okay, and the next activity sought to give students an opportunity to really engage with international students on campus. I was kind of disappointed to learn that many of my students had actually never interacted with foreign students on campus, even though I teach at a local university that strives to encourage, cross-cultural communication. So through this activity, I really wanted students to feel more comfortable interacting with foreign peers and to also promote cross-cultural exchange and dialogue. So the primary purpose was to get students to engage in intercultural communication with their international peers and to have international students participate in a discussion board Q&A to answer questions that the local students have about their experience in home country culture, whether that be food, daily life experiences, typical family structure, etc. Or the instructor could invite international students to attend a live synchronous class session to answer questions. So these are sample directions right here that you could use. Write a 150-word discussion post. Research the culture of the international student's home country, for example, China, any other country. In 150 words or more, share 3 interesting things that you learned about the culture. Make 2 questions that you would like to know about the student's experiences or culture of their country. And this was to promote intercultural exchange and dialogue. So the international student or students can respond through the discussion forum or participate in a live synchronous Q&A session to answer questions. Especially if the class is rather large, it might be quite time consuming for the international student to answer all of the students' questions in writing, but having them participate in a live speaking event might be a little easier for them. So something to consider, especially, is the size of the class in terms of how you move forward with this assignment. And then, of course, respond to 3 students. And what I did to show my appreciation to the international students, I made them each a participation certificate just to, say thank you for participating and for sharing information about your experiences with the students. And they were very grateful about this opportunity and found it much more engaging than just, reading about or watching videos pertaining to other cultures. Okay, next we have intercultural communication issues in the news. And the purpose really was to examine stories in the Korean or international news that involve intercultural communication. And also students need to gain more awareness of international events, as well as domestic events that relate to intercultural communication that have an impact on other countries. And these days in the news, we can see a lot of conflict arising, especially because of a lack of understanding about diversity. Out of the coronavirus period, we saw issues arising in the news. Also, we have a lot of movements happening in the world today related to diversity and other similar issues. So it's really important for the students to become knowledgeable about these events and how they are connected to intercultural communication. And these are some sample directions here. So first, read a Korean or international news article from 2020 that involves some form of intercultural communication. And some examples here: perhaps discuss the role of intercultural communication in this news story, about world leaders meetings, maybe volunteers assisting in humanitarian projects overseas, maybe the experiences of Korean people living overseas. So I just provided some examples to give some guidance to the students, but really any kind of topic pertaining to diversity or intercultural communication in the news would suffice. And then next, write a 150-word discussion post, and in 50 words or more, summarize the article, and in 100 words or more, discuss the role of intercultural communication in the news story. So in addition, share some of your thoughts about the news story. Is there anything that you found particularly interesting? So this is just, a sample that I provided. You could adjust this as needed for your class. And then finally, I have the students respond to 3 students. Okay, and the 4th activity emphasized personal intercultural interactions to really get the students to reflect on their own experiences and also consider the role of intercultural communication in their future experiences. So the main purpose here is to get students to understand why it is important to learn about other cultures for personal development and to gain more awareness of the world around them. And also to have students reflect on their own experiences or think about how possible future experiences can aid in their understanding of intercultural communication. And these are sample directions. Write a 150-word discussion post and discuss one of the following topics: what you learned about other cultures through travel. And some students may have not traveled internationally, so we can look at domestic culture as well. We don't necessarily have to refer to diverse cultures internationally. We can look at cultures within our own country. Your experiences working with or meeting people from other cultures, once again, even in Korea or the student's own country. Future plans for interacting with people from other cultures. And here's another example: you are planning a trip to another country. Think about a country you would like to visit. What are some things that you should know about the culture of that country prior to visiting? And you can make some of your own examples as well. And then finally, of course, respond to 3 students in 50 words or more. Okay, and finally, the 5th activity here, and this one is to get students to really engage in meaningful intercultural communication, to take action. So here we have students need to understand the importance of intercultural communication on campus and they should think about how they can individually promote intercultural communication with diverse students on campus. Sample directions: write a 150-word discussion post. Discuss at least 3 specific ways in which intercultural communication can be promoted on campus. You can discuss personal examples of how you can promote intercultural communication, or broader examples about changes that can be made in classrooms or campus-wide. So there's some flexibility with this, but the key point here is for students to think about real and authentic ways to promote change, where they can be the voice for change by implementing new policies or sharing suggestions about their ideas, or individually making a difference through their actions. And then once again, the students will respond to 3 other students. So through this activity, students can hopefully create some meaningful intercultural communication exchanges on campus. And then some final tips here: discuss your experiences as they relate to intercultural communication. I often talk about my travel experiences with students, as well as the time that I've spent living overseas. And I think these personalized stories on the discussion board can really help to bring the discussion board to life. So making it personalized, even individualized, I think it can be very helpful. Next, focus on critical thinking. Ask engaging and thought-provoking questions to get the students to think on a deeper level. Also, try to apply concepts of intercultural communication to the students' lives, where they can think of meaningful ways to promote intercultural exchange on campus or in their local communities and organizations that they belong to. But one of the real aims should be to promote authentic intercultural communication rather than just writing responses to other classmates on the discussion board. Students need to take action. And then finally, I think it's important to be an active participant on the discussion forum, especially by sharing your own experiences, providing some guidance, maybe asking questions to elicit deeper responses. But make sure you don't dominate the conversations, and give students plenty of opportunities to share their own ideas. So that's all that I have. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. And if you would like to share ideas regarding cross-cultural communication, or if you have any questions, feel free to email me at the email address listed at the beginning of the presentation. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.